Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Rushcliffe series. This is the southernmost district in Nottinghamshire and it contains 59 civil parishes of England. And there's some corkers down here. Let's dive in and check one out. Hello folks, time for round 3 in Rushcliffe, and today I brought you to a place with a very strange name. I'm not quite sure what it means myself, but I'm sure I will find out as I walk around and do my research. Welcome to the lovely little village that is Barton in Fabis. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Barton in Fabis, barley farm in the bean fields. Now I know we're in Nottinghamshire, but Barton in Fabis, a small village just to the south of the River Trent, has more than just a small link to Leicestershire. It comes by way of its name and this old saying coined by John Benjamin Firth: shake a Leicestershire man by the collar and you may hear the beans rattle in his belly. You see, in Leicestershire, broad beans were and still are a common crop, so much so that they even gave their name to the village in the county known as Barton in the Beans. Despite the fact we're in Nottinghamshire, that name is exactly what this place used to be called. Fabis is a Latin term and it literally means bean, suggesting that like Leicestershire, this part of Nottinghamshire also had bean fields. Barton in Fabis is a bit of a mouthful, so from now on in this video it's just simply Barton. In 1331 the village was called Barton on Trent, but that was changed to Barton in the Beans to avoid confusion with Burton on Trent. It's a much loved village and one that's often been prone to flooding from the Trent. Its main attractions include its church, a village hall which incorporates the local pub, and Dovecote Barn with its popular farm shop. So let's go for a little wander and see how many beans we can spot around the place these days. We start on a crossroads to the north of civilization where 4 of Barton's roads all meet. Namely, they are Chestnut Lane, Manor Road, New Road and Brown Lane. Chestnut Lane is a dead end, but it can be followed all the way to the Trent bank as a bridleway. In Victorian times, during the summer, Barton was well known for its tea houses. Many people visited Barton simply just to sit on the riverbank and enjoy a cup of tea. Although well out of the way, Barton still gets a lot of visitors and a lot come on foot via Brands Hill Wood. Although there are modern houses on your screen right now, don't be fooled. Barton is filled with many old buildings dating back centuries. Here's one of them halfway down Brown Lane. This is the old post office. Barton sits within a pair of meanders on the Trent. The river is a major part of life here, and there are several tracks that lead down to it. From at least 1774, the village was the location of the Barton Ferry, which crossed the Trent to Attenborough, close to the mouth of the River Erewash. The ferry finished its crossings in the early 1960s. To the west of Brown Lane is Garbythorpe, which used to be administered as a separate parish. Many believe it to have been a Viking settlement originally. It consists of 3 houses, and this is one of them, which were historically owned by the Peverils and then the Cliftons. They were only united with Barton when, in the 18th century, the Cliftons married into the Sacheverell family, who were lords of the manor. Brown Lane has now met Church Lane, but to continue our circuit, we're heading along Rectory Place, past Old Farm Court. Down here, there's a few new builds. From just 40 dwellings in the early 18th century, Barton has now grown to at least 90, but it's a long way from being overrun with new properties. Barton has always been a characterful village, and it remains so today. The same can be said for its residents. We've now hit Manor Road and a bus stop, but Barton isn't served by any regular buses as it's in a demand-responsive area. This was, though, the ideal spot to mark off the parish, thanks to a notice board in the shelter. 3 down, 56 to go. So up to now, landmarks have been a bit thin on the ground. I mean, this bus shelter is perhaps the only thing really of interest that we've seen so far, isn't it? But there is something else of interest across the way there. There's a little tablet set into a wall, this little green tablet. I suspect that's a war memorial. So we'll go across to that, we'll have a look and see if it is, and then we'll take a left turn and head up the street you can see in front of you, because that has most of Barton's amenities on it. Indeed, it was a war memorial, and it remembers all 7 of the Barton men who lost their lives in World War I. To honour them, 7 trees, 1 for each man, were planted along Manor Road in February 2014. The wall you can see running down the left-hand side of the road here belongs to the rectory. It's one of the 7 listed buildings in Barton and one of the oldest. It's late 17th century and dominates the centre of the village. As we know, a rectory is never far from its church, and in this case, it's directly opposite it. Dedicated to St George, Barton's church is medieval, dating back to the 14th century originally. It's Grade 1 listed, and it's famous for an alabaster tomb in its chancel with reclining effigies of William and Tabitha Sacheverell, which dates back to 1616. Thomas Chambers Hine, everyone's favourite Nottingham architect, was responsible for the restoration of this one in 1855. As with the 2 previous Rushcliffe episodes, St George's is part of the 453 group. The churchyard has a freestanding war memorial, and the tower has 6 bells. Let's exit the churchyard now and make our way towards the village hall. In doing so, we pass through the Lit Gate, which was built to celebrate the coronation of King George VI in 1937. Barton's village hall used to be the local school. Originally part of the Clifton estate, it was first used as a school in 1874. It closed in 1962 and returned to the estate, but 5 years later it was in use again as the village hall. It's not immediately obvious, but the building contains a pub, the Farmer's Arms, and here's the proof. This bench is a memorial to the former landlord, Mick Bexon. It simply says he's now pulling pints in heaven. It isn't the only business on this corner either. This is Dovecote Barn, often the location for big village events, including live music in the summer. It's the only property in the village which could be classed as retail. It has a farm shop with a cafe, bar and bistro. Barton doesn't have a general store these days, but it used to have several, including a sweet shop, a butcher's and a baker's. There were 2 taverns back in 1676 as well. How times have changed. And just as you turn the corner at the junction where we began, you'll find the phone box which has got a book exchange in it. Let's have a quick look. You can see some books in there. There we go. Oh, nice little history board as well. Interesting. Might have a read of that. Might take some pictures. There goes a few books in there. Not a great amount, to be honest with you. Now, also, all the way around the village I've been seeing on lampposts signs that say "Stop the Quarry," and I've been wondering to myself what that's all about. So I had a little Google and I found some interesting stuff which is going to form today's special section. The Stop the Quarry flyers all around the village relate to the proposed Fabis quarry, which never happened. As we know from previous encounters with the River Trent, sand and gravel are in abundance along its banks. In 2014, plans were put forward by developers wanting to dig a brand new quarry close to Barton. However, this angered the locals because they felt it was the wrong place to put a brand new quarry. They said as it's a sensitive area, it would cause too much noise and dust and disrupt local wildlife. Cited were two landmarks, the Lark Hill Retirement Village on the southern edge of Clifton and the Attenborough Nature Reserve on the other side of the Trent. The latter is run by the Nottinghamshire Wildlife Trust, who also lent their support to the campaign. In 2022, after 8 years of campaigning, the plans were dropped, but there are new applications in the works. This may not be the end of the fight for Barton's residents, so watch this space. If we're talking about new developments though, this area already has a few of them. Let's go for a drive. After driving out of the village, we found our way to Mill Hill roundabout on the A453. There's no great mystery about that name, there was once a windmill here on the hill. These days, Mill Hill leads to another important landmark that falls within Barton's boundaries, Clifton South Park and Ride. This is sited at a terminus of the NET, Nottingham's tram system. Clifton South is brand new. It opened in August 2015 along with the rest of NET's Phase 2, as it calls it. The tram stop is the terminus of Line 2 to Phoenix Park via Clifton, Wilford and the centre of Nottingham. The stop comprises a pair of side platforms flanking the twin terminal tracks, with one of the platforms being long enough to accommodate, if necessary, 2 trams. The Park and Ride site has a capacity for over 1,000 cars, and there's also an interchange with local bus services and a half-hourly express bus service to East Midlands Airport. Soon enough, this stop will get much busier, and to understand why, all we have to do is drive back out. To the southeast of Barton is a massive expanse of open land which will soon be covered by a brand new village, Fairham. Still within the parish boundaries, Fairham will be a place unlike any other, built from the ground up on the principles of sustainability, community and forward-thinking excellence. It's in its infancy, and as such there's not really anything to see here yet apart from a building site or two. That said, one area is already well underway, Fairham Business Park, which is where we are right here. When it's complete, the 606-acre site will feature 3,000 new homes, a 3-form primary school and a neighbourhood centre, 33 acres of sports pitches, 4 miles of shared footpaths and cycle tracks and 1 million square feet of commercial employment space. The whole thing will provide the area with 2,000 new jobs. That NET tram stop won't know what's hit it. Think of the commuters. It's likely to attract people from far and wide too, because it's going to be within 10 minutes of the M1 and East Midlands Airport. It's just as well that £100 million is being invested in the new infrastructure to cope with the brand new development, including an extension to the NET's tram route. It's quite the project, all things considered. And that's going to do us for Barton in Fabis, or should I say Barton in the Beans, at least for now. When Fairham is complete, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that a brand new parish might be formed, so I could well be back. Until then, the rest of Rushcliffe lies before me, and next week we're off to find a caped crusader. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.